Hey, welcome back. I was walking through Grand Central Terminal the other day, rushing to catch a train, and I passed by this stunning, massive clock made of opal. It's worth over $10 million. And for a second, it made me think about value, what we consider precious, what we build around it. And that thought, in the middle of New York's hustle, sent my mind all the way across the Atlantic and back 7 centuries to a story of wealth so vast it literally reshaped the map of the world. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Empire Builders, the rise and fall of civilizations. Today, we're heading to West Africa in the 14th century, to the forgotten empire of Mali, and the journey of a king whose name became synonymous with unimaginable riches, Mansa Musa. When we think of the wealthiest people in history, names like Rockefeller or Bezos might come to mind. But by any calculation, the richest person who ever lived was Mansa Musa, the 10th Mansa, or emperor, of the Mali Empire. His wealth wasn't in stock options or real estate portfolios. It was in gold, and Mali, at its height, controlled over half the world's known gold supply. But this isn't just a story about being rich. It's a story about what that wealth built, what it meant, and the profound, unintended price that was paid for it. It's a lesson in economics, power, and the delicate balance of an empire. Our story really begins with a pilgrimage. In 1324, Mansa Musa, a devout Muslim, decided to undertake the Hajj, the sacred journey to Mecca. But this wouldn't be a quiet, private affair. This was a statement to the world. His caravan was something out of legend. Contemporary accounts describe a procession of 60,000 people, soldiers, officials, servants, and 12,000 slaves, each carrying a staff of solid gold. 100 camels, each burdened with 300 pounds of pure gold dust. The emperor himself, riding horseback, preceded by 500 slaves, also carrying gold staffs. He was dispensing gold so freely along his route, through Cairo and towards the holy cities, that he accidentally triggered an economic crisis. He gave away so much gold in Cairo that its value plummeted, causing inflation that crippled the local economy for over a decade. For the Mediterranean and Arab world, it was as if a mountain of gold had suddenly walked out of a previously obscure land. Mansa Musa put Mali, quite literally, on the map. Literally. The most famous world map of the late medieval period, the 1375 Catalan Atlas, features a dominant image of Mansa Musa sitting on a golden throne in West Africa, holding a golden nugget. He was the symbol of African wealth and power to all of Europe. And that wealth wasn't just for show. When Mansa Musa returned from his pilgrimage, he brought back something more valuable than gold: knowledge and ambition. He brought back scholars, architects, and poets from the Middle East. And with them, he embarked on a breathtaking project of urban development and intellectual revival. The most famous of these projects was the Sankore Mosque and the university that grew around it, in the legendary city of Timbuktu. Timbuktu became a beacon, a center of learning that rivaled any in the world. Its libraries held hundreds of thousands of manuscripts on astronomy, medicine, law, and history. Scholars from across Africa and the Islamic world came to study. This was the Golden Age, the empire's zenith, built not just on the raw power of gold, but on the transformative power of ideas, faith, and education. Mali was an administrative marvel, with a complex system of provincial governors and a massive standing army that secured the lucrative trans-Saharan trade routes. Gold flowed north, salt, books, and luxury goods flowed south. The empire was a bustling, sophisticated network. But here's the core paradox, the central tension of Mali's story. The very source of its incredible power, its gold, was also its greatest vulnerability. And Mansa Musa's legendary pilgrimage, for all its glory, exposed that vulnerability to a watching, hungry world. You see, Mali's gold mines were a closely guarded secret. The empire didn't mint coins. It traded in gold dust and nuggets, controlling the supply and maintaining its mystique. But Mansa Musa's breathtaking display, while showcasing Mali's power, did something dangerous. It broadcast the location and scale of that wealth. It was the ultimate advertisement, but for a product everyone would now want to steal. The empire's economy was almost entirely dependent on this single, exhaustible resource. And while Mansa Musa invested in the intellectual capital of Timbuktu, The underlying economic structure remained fragile, tied to the whims of trade routes and the finite nature of the gold fields. After Mansa Musa's death around 1337, the empire began to face the consequences of its own opulence. Succession disputes, always a weakness, became more common. But more critically, the world now knew where the gold was. The empire began to attract attention of a different kind. Raiders and rival kingdoms started to test its borders. The trade routes that were its lifelines became targets. Internally, the focus on the gold-producing regions and the great cities like Timbuktu and Gao sometimes came at the expense of the agricultural heartlands and the loyalty of outlying provinces. The empire was vast, and without the constant, strong leadership of a figure like Mansa Musa, it became difficult to hold together. The wealth that built Sankore University also bred complacency and envy. By the late 15th century, the empire was fracturing. The Songhai people to the east rose up, capturing Timbuktu and Gao, and seizing control of the trade routes. The gold mines, perhaps depleted or simply in different hands, no longer fueled the Malian state. The forgotten empire was eclipsed, leaving behind the haunting, mud-brick monuments of its greatness and the whispers of a king who once flooded a continent with gold. There's a personal reflection I have here. As an engineer and entrepreneur, we're taught to scale, to find that one product or service that can dominate a market. Mali had it, gold. It was the ultimate product-market fit for its time. But they became a mono-economy. Mansa Musa tried to diversify, brilliantly, into intellectual capital, building that incredible university. That was his startup investment in a new sector. But it seems the foundational system, the governance, the succession planning, the economic buffers, couldn't sustain the shift. The initial resource was too seductive. It makes me think about modern startups and empires today, in tech or otherwise. Is our gold, our data, our user base, our viral feature, something we're over-displaying on our own pilgrimage, attracting the wrong kind of attention? And are we building the lasting, resilient institutions around it? Or just more efficient ways to distribute the gold dust until the well runs dry? Mansa Musa's story is the ultimate cautionary tale about the difference between liquidity and lasting wealth, between spectacle and stable legacy. So what are we left with? The memory of a man so rich he broke economies, and an empire of learning that rose from the desert. The price of Mali's gold was ultimately its own security. It bought a magnificent, fleeting moment in the sun, a century of brilliance that reshaped global perception, but it also painted a target on its back. The legacy isn't just in the ruins, but in the lesson that true empire building isn't about the resource you discover, but the systems you create to sustain, protect, and transcend it. The gold is gone, scattered across the world, but the stories from the libraries of Timbuktu, the ambition that reached for the stars from the heart of Africa, that endures. It's a story worth remembering. Thank you for listening. If this journey into the past resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd share this episode with someone or subscribe to Empire Builders wherever you get your podcasts. It truly helps us keep bringing these stories to light. For more from me, Ibnul J. Farabi, and the entire team, visit our home at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. Until next time, build wisely.